Hi, this is Ann Hayward, and today's project I'm going to show you how to emboss aluminum cans using a Big Shot die cut machine and embossing folder. Now this card, the flower images are embossed, they're raised, they're bumpy on the aluminum can, and this card, they're debossed or recessed. And the difference is how you run the aluminum through the Big Shot in the embossing folder. So let's get started. What you need for this project is a recycled soda pop can. It needs to be rinsed out and drained, and it doesn't matter what kind of soda pop it was, because the embossed image is going to be on the inside or the silver part of the can. So any can will do. You need a good pair of cutting scissors to cut the can, and I'm using my craft and rubber scissors from Stampin' Up. A pair of tin snips also would work. Of course you need your Big Shot. You need an embossing folder, and this one is Elegant Bouquet. And you also need the platform and cutting plates that come with the Big Shot. The first thing that you need to do is cut the can so it can be laid flat to run through the Big Shot. And for this, I'm using my craft and rubber scissors from Stampin' Up, and they cut through these cans like butter. I have made numerous cards and other projects with these aluminum cans. I probably would say 75 to 80 projects, and my scissors are still cutting through the aluminum without any problem. So what you want to do is cut the rim with the scissors, cut to the first ridge of the rim, and then you're going to cut the top rim off. And this part can be thrown away. The top part can be thrown away. And I always work with a towel because a lot of times the can is not completely drained, and you will get some drainage there. Once you've cut the upper rim off, then you're going to cut down the side of the can to the second ridge, the bottom ridge. And you need to be careful. These cans are very sharp, but once you run them through the Big Shot, the edges will be smoothed out, but initially just be careful. And I always cut to the nutritional label part of the can. And actually, I am going to be using this little leftover piece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the bottom all the way off. And this part can be recycled. And I'm going to use this part for another part of the card. But here is my cut can. And again, be careful. These edges are sharp. You don't want any blood to be drawn. Alright, we have a cut can, and we're ready to run it through the embossing folder and the Big Shot. Now, depending on whether you want your flower images to be embossed or raised or debossed, recessed, that's how you're going to place the can in the embossing folder. If you want the flowers to be raised, put the inside of the can or the silver side of the can up in the embossing folder. If you want them to be debossed or recessed, put the colored side of the can up in the embossing folder. I'm ready to build my Big Shot sandwich. You need the cutting platform, you need the lower cutting plate, you're going to place the embossing folder with your can inside, and I've got the printed side up, so my can is going to be debossed, and then I put my upper cutting plate on, and then I'm going to run it through the Big Shot. And it's going to crinkle and crunch, and that's okay, that's normal. And then I'm going to unload the can. And I now have a debossed or reset flower image on the inside of the can. Isn't that pretty? Now, the way I cut the can, the edges are not straight, so there's a couple ways you can take care of this to even up your sides. Personally, I just run it through my guillotine cutter, so that way I get a even cut all the way on all four sides. Or again, with your craft and rubber scissors, very easily they cut through the aluminum. And that's probably not straight because I was eyeballing it. That's why I use my guillotine cutter. But you can cut the can down to fit the project that you're doing. Now, in an effort to use all parts of the can, I saved the little piece that has the nutritional label on it, and I'm going to use this piece to stamp and punch out my greeting. I went ahead and stamped my greeting, "Thank you," using Stays On. You need permanent ink so it doesn't smear once it's dried. And then I'm going to use my word window punch from Stampin' Up, and it punches through the aluminum very easily too. And here's my greeting. Thank you. And here is that leftover piece. I have enough room for one more greeting if I wanted to do one, so I've used all parts of the can. And finally, here are the final projects. Just one side note, these eyelets here I set using my crocodile. Of course, the crocodile easily punches through aluminum. The images on this particular card are embossed or raised. The aluminum can was set face up in the embossing folder as I ran it through the Big Shot. And on this card, the image is debossed. The printed side of the can was face up in the embossing folder as I ran it through the Big Shot. And there is my greeting again that I stamped and punched using the extra aluminum from the original can. This is a great way to recycle and reuse. It's one of those wow projects, and it's a lot of fun. Thanks for watching.